This year's Ole Miss team isn't the same team that we've seen the past couple years. This isn't a team that is all shine but no grit. This team doesn't hang its head when it isn't going their way. In fact, they do the exact opposite. They have found a way to win. Now, outside of one opportunity on the road in T-Town, when the going's gotten tough, the boys from Oxford have held on and held strong. Against LSU, they outlasted them. Against A&M, they caught them slipping late. Now, this version of Lane Kiffin's team doesn't want to be respected. In fact, they want to be feared. They're physical in the front seven, more physical than they have been in a while. But can they be consistent enough to beat one of the most efficient teams in all of college football? And that's who Georgia is. Well, what's the best way to beat efficiency? With efficiency. Ole Miss ranks top 5 in giveaways a game. They do not turn the ball over. Jackson Dart isn't making the big improvisational mistakes that he made last year, and their defense is top 10 in sack percentage, top 30 in opponent interception percentage, and top 30 in opponent yards per rush. They aren't the doormat on defense of the SEC anymore. Now, the math says eventually Carson Beck has to come back down to earth for one game, right? He's got to make a couple mistakes in at least one game, right? But Georgia can't play average and get away against this Ole Miss team. The biggest problem with that is Georgia has only shown signs of getting better and improving, and they finish you Mortal Kombat style in the second half. So whichever side you're on this weekend, be it Ole Miss or Georgia, get ready, because the solar eclipse that is us actually getting to watch these two teams play is going to end up being one hell of a game. But remember, Ole Miss isn't coming in with just an offense. This team is more balanced than they've been in a while, and they know how to finish. I'm going to bring in my co-host, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, brother, former Western State Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crane. When you look at the numbers, Jackson Dart and Carson Beck are exactly identical touchdown-interception ratio.
Wow.
Ole Miss's defense is not elite. I don't want anybody to get the thought that I'm saying Ole Miss is a top 10 defense nationally. But they're very opportunistic, and they're deeper up front on the defensive line and more physical. I think they can stack up with a team like Georgia for longer than they have been in the past, and they are taking advantage of opportunities. Typically, David, we've seen Ole Miss fall apart at the end. We saw them last year start out fantastically the first half of the season, then fall off a cliff late. This LSU team Ole Miss team outside of one game has found a way to win, and I think this team is more physical. You look at the run game, you look at Jackson Dart's ability to run, then you look at the defense being able to get after the passer, and this year, when you close your eyes and listen when Ole Miss is on defense, you can hear the pads pop. And I want to give credit to Pete Golding as well.
No doubt. On the Georgia side of things, no team yet against Georgia has been able to do two things. One surprises me, one doesn't. The first one is no team has been able to get after Carson Beck in a way that makes him look like the young starter that he is, right? Like no team has made him throw, multiple interceptions that end up costing Georgia the game. On the defensive side of things, no team has been able to put up so many points that it ends up being a shootout, so you force Carson Beck to have to get into that sort of game. I'm thinking about the way that the Ole Miss LSU game played out. Even Missouri, with that high-flying offense that they have, put up 21 points. Georgia's able to win 30-21. Now, I think Ole Miss can do the second thing, right? Like they've proven that they can put up enough points. They can utilize this run game with Quinshon Judkins, similar to the way that Auburn was able to have success, even though that game against Georgia was in Jordan-Hare, but then also move the football vertically down the field to be able to score points against Georgia. I'm just wondering on the other side, does this Ole Miss defense, the same team that we saw struggle in the trenches at time in the Tulane game, I know that was a long time ago and they've gotten better each week. Can that defense force Carson Beck to make mistakes, or is he just going to stay on rhythm every single week despite not having Brock Bowers?
Well, I mean, the amount of time and I don't want to take any credit away from Carson, he deserves all the credit. The amount of time that Carson Beck's had in the pocket this year with this Georgia offensive line that continues to get healthier, that continues to get better, that we knew would be a strength. I think it's going to be harder, even though Ole Miss does rank top 10 in sack percentage, to be able to get there. And Georgia really hasn't had to max protect a ton to be able to protect Carson Beck, which puts other guys in routes. But when we talk about efficiency, and one of the reasons I've said I think so far this is Kirby Smart's best coaching job at Georgia is because and numbers don't tell the whole story, but they tell a lot, especially when they're this slanted. You want to talk about team balance, so we talk about it all the time? Here's Georgia. Points per game, they're 9th overall in the country. Defensively, in points given up, they're 8th overall in the country. Yards per game, they're 8th in the country. Yards given up per game, they're 6th. Yards per play, they're 8th. Yards per play given up, they're 15th. The only huge disparity, and you look at third down, Georgia is number 1 in the country offensively in converting on third down at 56.31%.
Wow.
On defense, they're number 5 in the country giving up. They are winning third down at an incredible rate. The two chinks in the armor, I would say, for Georgia. When opponents get in the red zone, they're scoring 89% of the time. All right, almost 90% of the time, they're 106th in the country there. Right now, I don't think opponents get in the red zone a lot.
That counts for field goals too.
Field goals too.
Okay.
All right, so you're giving up points, but 106th in the country puts you in the back end. And a point that you brought up, where did Georgia struggle with? What did Georgia struggle with defensively earlier in the year, and what did they have success against? Quarterbacks that could run, where you could stretch them laterally, because I think Blaine brought up a great point earlier in the year looking at Georgia. They don't run as well sideline to sideline on defense as they have in the past. Not saying they're bad, right? But we hold them to, they are the gold standard, right? They are the top of the top, the headline of the headliners. I think Jackson Dart's ability to stretch this defense laterally and then hit them north, like you mentioned with Quinshon Judkins, Auburn was able to do some things against Georgia with that. Where's Georgia had success? Against quarterbacks that can't run and just have a vertical run game, right? Kentucky, teams like that. Even Brady Cook was able to stretch them laterally. I thought Drink did a good job, utilizing some of that. But I can tell you the best bet when it comes to coffee, that's Black Rifle Coffee. All right, everybody knows we drink it. We know you don't always have time to brew your coffee the traditional way. That's why they have their ready-to-drink cans. It's that Josh Heupel up-tempo offense. They're perfect for people who need their coffee quickly. Listen to these flavors. Vanilla Bomb, explosion of flavor. Salted caramel, yes. Mocha, of course. And vanilla caramel, please pour it all over me. Black Rifle Coffee is a veteran-founded coffee company that's operated by principal men and women who honor those who protect, defend, and support our country. And with every purchase you make, they give back. So stop running out of coffee, all right, and sign up for a coffee club subscription to have it delivered straight to your door on a schedule. So save money and drink America's coffee. Go to blackriflecoffee.com. Use our promo code BOOSTER at checkout, and you get 10% off your one-time purchase, our first coffee club order. That's blackriflecoffee.com. Use our promo code BOOSTER for 10% off. You can also find it in grocery and convenience stores near you, but we know deep down you want to go to blackriflecoffee.com and use that promo code BOOSTER. What flavors you got over there, Blonnier?
Man, I got a gunship. I got a little power llama with the machine gun on it.
David, what do you got over there?
Headless Horseman's Roast, Cousin Ichabod.
It's always Halloween.
BR, set us some cans, man. Put it on set.
Oh, yeah, get some of those ready to drink. Shoot, I'll drink one live on
Hell
the show.
yeah.
Say I won't. But Blaine, when you look at this Ole Miss team, when you look at the athletes they have on the outside with Harris and Franklin, you look at Priestcorn at tight end, you look at Judkins at the running back position, how long do you think Ole Miss can stay in this fight? And if they can stay in the fight long, can they continue to do it in the second half where Georgia has dominated teams?
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of it has to do with the experience of Jackson Dart, the experience of Judkins, the experience of this football team, especially on offense. And like you see the difference in a 10-win team in Ole Miss and a not a 10-win, and that's the defense, right? And you brought it up earlier. They're not great, but they're not bad, right? They're an opportunity defense. Kind of reminds me of USC a little bit last year when it comes to turnovers. A little bit better than USC, but the difference in games like this, I promise you, one is red zone and two is Jackson Dart's feet. All right, that's going to be the difference if Ole Miss is going to win this game. Not only in quarterback design runs, but third downs, escaping the pocket, things that break down. That's how you beat a Georgia team like this. And you got to have two guys on the outside that can go one-on-one and win matchups. That's how you win in the red zone. Where does that safety play? If you're going to be too high in the red zone, we got to try to run the ball. That's when the QB design run comes in. Mm-hmm. If you're going to play one high in the red zone, that's when you have to take your chance with a guy, one-on-one matchup, and that's what Ole Miss always has. They always have at least one or two cats, trust me, you watch them play on Sunday a lot, that can go up and get the ball, and that's how you're going to hurt this Georgia team. That's how Missouri hurt this Georgia team, right? Brady Cook's feet, right? As Schrader had a good game, had 112 yards, nothing crazy. But taking your one-on-one matchups, wherever Lassiter's not there.
Spreads them out.
Wherever Lassiter's not there, you're going to take that other side matchup, and I think Ole Miss can do that. But can they get turnovers, timely turnovers, and how close to the cuff does Lane play this? How many fourth downs does he get on?
Mm-hmm. All right. All of them.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Lane, you just gave up 35 against A&M. All right. Georgia's going to score some points. You're going to have to make some conscious decisions whether or not 4th and 5, 4th and 4, depending on where we are, you're going to have to take chances in this game, especially on the road.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm interested to see how he plays it tempo-wise, too, to try and keep his defense off the field, especially in the back half of the year. You know, they're an up-tempo team. Sometimes you can kind of regress defensively as the year goes on. Guys get worn out. You're playing more snaps, but I think that's where the depth comes in, especially up front. We want to know what you think.
One thing
go ahead.
Quick, the line's minus 10.5.
Minus 10.5.
The over-under is 58.5. You know, what keeps this from being a 24-10 game the way Ole Miss played Alabama?
Well, I think a lot of it is the tempo that Ole Miss plays at, but it's hard for me to sit here and believe that Lane's not going to, you know, bring his big gun and try and win the way that he's won. When I look at the line, when I look at the spread in this game, I think what you're going to see is Ole Miss is going to throw some punches in the first half. We've seen Georgia not really, you know, be the best team in the world the first half, and then the second half make the adjustments and kind of let gravity be gravity. But I'm going to be honest with you, man. Right now, I kind of like the first half number. For Ole Miss, you know, against Georgia, I think that's one to lean on. But overall, man, this is a game I don't know if I want to touch, David. I don't. With all the other games on the board, if I had to, gun in my head, I would probably buy it down to 9.5 and take Georgia right now for a little bit less, because I mean they're at minus 112 at the 10.5. Probably looking at minus 120 something, maybe minus 130 at Georgia, minus 9.5 because of that number. That over-under at 58.5, I just think we could get so many different types of game from this game. There's other better bets on the board, but that first half number for Georgia and Ole Miss, I'm intrigued to see that.
Well, I mean, how much, you know, would be the matchup I think about is like, how much better is Ole Miss than Missouri, right? Even if they are. Both games are going to be in Georgia. I mean, sooner or later, Lane's got to show up in one of these big games from a play calling standpoint. How much does Lane dip in his bag right here?
Well, LSU, I think he showed up. I mean, they scored, what,
I mean, it's 55.
You can't tell me that he wasn't trying against
True,
Alabama.
but I'm talking about like against a Georgia or Bama. You scored 10 points against Bama. I mean, that's kind of the kind of...
he did play that one.
It's kind of the crunches against him has been Bama and Georgia, these teams where they're deep, like, their defense is phenomenal, but they happen like Missouri kind of exposed Georgia in some ways. Georgia's a phenomenal defense, but exposed as in you can score against this team. Missouri left some points out on the board in this game, and you have more of experienced quarterback. Your offensive line is pretty damn good, and you have Lane Kiffin calling the plays. So I think Lane can keep it close. If anything, I'm buying this game. I would like Ole Miss plus 10.5 in this game and roll with the over. I think Ole Miss is going to be able to score some points against this Georgia defense. I really do. After what you've been seeing on Saturdays, this is not a shutdown, we're going to suffocate you to death defense. It's not. It's really not. And Ole Miss is one of the best offenses in the nation statistically, if you look at it. And I don't think Junkins gets enough credit about what he does in the backfield. And I think they'll be able to spread him out. I think Lane will do a great job with the jet sweep, sideline to sideline, and then hitting them north and south.
Let's see if they can.
And that's when you keep it. And that's when you keep it. You build off of it. And this is going to be a layer cake game for Lane. It definitely will. By the fourth quarter, like I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, and that number at halftime is 6.5.
Okay.
Georgia at 6.5. Interested to see if that moves at all. But I like Ole Miss even on the 6.5, and I'm not a huge fan of that number. But we want to know what you think. Hey, YouTube, thanks for stopping by. There's a guy in the jean jacket. I obviously know what I'm talking about. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, turn that notification bell on so you know when we're dropping content. Basketball season just got here as well. Join the party.